What are we doing?
Would you like some? Of course. No, I'm gonna go sleep.
Hi, so what's your name?
I'm Pablo.
Pablo. Okay, not Pablo Escobar? No. Okay, so for people who don't know you, could you give a brief summary of what you do now?
Yeah, over the past few years, I've been spending a lot of time thinking and doing research about trends in artificial intelligence and trying to understand how the technology would evolve in the future and its economic impact.
Okay, cool. And how did you get into air safety in the first place?
Well, the story basically starts when I was in high school. I was already interested in AI as a field. It felt very interesting. And I attended a talk in my high school given by a previous student who gave a talk about rationality and how to think more clearly and achieve your goals better. So the talk was very interesting to me, but basically the only thing I retained from it was the existence of this book called Harry Potter and the Methods of Rationality. This is a Harry Potter fan fiction where the protagonist is like Harry is raised by scientists instead of by his normal Muggle parents as well. He has a bunch of scientific and rational adventures. So I got very interested in this idea of rationality as the quest to think better. And I started reading more about it. I discovered the rationalist community and was wrong, and through that I discovered effective altruism. And throughout this time, I was finishing my last year of high school. So I ended high school. I decided I like AI, I like rationality, so I'm going to go into mathematics and computer science at college. So I entered college, I entered that major, and I found out that there was an effective altruism group in my university. And then I sent an email to the group address, like in their website. And it turned out that the group was just one person, and it was the same guy who had given the talk in my high school 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So this person was Jaime Sevilla, who will become we became friends, and we started organizing events about rationality and AI safety and effective altruism in our college. And well, basically through those years in college, I kept reading. I kept reading more about AI, learning more, and also talking to more people, more of my friends about it. And yeah, at some point, when I finished my degree, I started working for a fintech startup. And in the meantime, with Jaime, we started doing some volunteer projects about AI and about AI safety. At the same time, Jaime was pursuing a PhD in AI as well. So one of these projects, the second one we tried, was about collecting data and plotting some trends about how the number of parameters of AI systems had been growing over time. So we did that. We collected a bunch of data. Jaime wrote a blog post about it, and it attracted a bit of attention. So a few people joined our little group and started working with us. So Leonard Time was there, a few others. I think at some point we were probably five or six people coming and going. And we decided to collect data on the compute used to train ML systems over time. So we read a bunch of papers, we started collecting all that data in a huge Excel spreadsheet. And eventually we wrote a paper about that, about the trends in compute usage in AI over time. This paper was published, I don't remember where exactly, maybe ICML.
Mm-hmm.
And it was very well received. So the data was later published in The Economist and in a bunch of places. So it looked like people really found it valuable, this sort of approach of just collecting, doing this boring task of collecting data and plotting some charts and publishing it.
Yeah.
So Jaime and Tamay, basically the two co-founders of Epoch. Sorry, I probably
No worries.
got ahead of myself. So Jaime and Tamay, who were part of this volunteer group, got some funding and got some institutional support and decided to found an organization to do this professionally. This was the beginning of Epoch AI, where
Wow.
I was working for the past 3 years.
It's a very cool story. And how did you like working at Epoch AI?
Well, it was very enjoyable. All of my colleagues were very smart and very kind. I felt like we did very interesting work. Some of it was relatively boring, but useful work. Like I mentioned, just gathering a bunch of data and reading a bunch of papers. Some of it was more conceptual and fun, like thinking of how to model the economic impact of AI automation. And yeah, at first it was mostly gathering data and thinking, coming up with models and forecasts. Then over time it turned more to packaging our insights and our work in a way that was easy to use for the public and for people in governments and for companies, or basically everyone who would be interested in using it.
Very cool. And like for people who are like starting their career in AI safety, and they want to work at Epoch AI, do you have any advice for them? Like what should they do, other than like meeting the co-founder or like the founder in an EA group?
Well, actually, that's how many of these successful organizations appeared, right? You talk to people in the field, you think, hey, has anyone done this, and why not? And sometimes the answer is just, well, it's a lot of work and nobody wants to do this do it. So that worked for us, and it's worked for many other people.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say try doing interesting projects, talk to people in the field and ask them if they think your idea would be useful. And especially if you're a student, normally you have plenty of time to just work on the stuff you find interesting.
Yeah.
So just do that.
Yeah, it's very cool. Also, another thing I hear a lot, especially in AI safety, is the term agency and how you should be very agentic and you need to create your own opportunities. Can you list something that you think you've done is highly agentic? And if not, maybe is there like a person you can think of and you think of, oh man, this guy's like doing it, Feel free to like answer how you like.
Well, the most agentic thing I've ever done was probably when I left college. My first job was at a fintech startup.
Uh-huh.
I joined when they were like 30 people.
Yeah.
And it was growing quite quickly. So by the time, after a year after I joined, they were already, I think, over 100 employees. And people were speculating whether, is this startup going to become a unicorn or not? And well, I had some equity, some stock options, right? Since I was hired. And this was in 2021.
Mm-hmm.
So I was a coder in this startup, a software engineer. And basically GitHub Copilot had come out pretty recently. So I was trying it and feeling like, okay, this is magic. This is the first AI product that seems to actually work and it's useful. Like, I'm typing a line of code and then I stop for a second to think and the next line is already written. So it felt like a really sharp contrast for me.
Mm-hmm.
And it prompted me to think, okay, I have to get into AI now. I have to figure out what's going on and what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So well, I left. I did not have a next job lined up initially, and Epoch AI was not started yet, right? It was still a volunteer group.
Mm-hmm.
So I talked to Jaime and he offered me, he helped me get a grant to be his assistant.
Yeah.
For a while. And yeah, I left the company to do that. So many of my colleagues told me, "Are you crazy? you do you know how rare it is to get into a startup early, which is growing so quickly?" Yeah, I guess the term agency is a mix of a bunch of things. So one of it is just having sort of courage to do uncommon things, and I think this is a decent example of that. But another very important aspect, I think, is just doing something that makes sense and not getting lost in something that sounds very good.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, probably the best way to do that is just talk to people, get feedback as early as possible, fail early.
Yeah.
I think Jaime, the founder of Epoch, did that pretty well.
Yeah.
Like he found this project of collecting data
Yeah.
After talking to a bunch of people and asking, okay, has anyone done this?
Yeah.
Do you think it would be useful? And why haven't you done it?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Very cool. And continuing like the agency thing, is there any other, are there any other people you feel like are like role models to you in this sense? What would you say?
Well, I mean, yeah, there's many people who I consider role models. So, sticking to Epoch again, Tamai Besiroglu, another co-founder and co-director, who later went on to do other stuff. He was in academia, and he basically noticed that it was not the right place to be to have the impact he wanted to have. I think that's a pretty common story, noticing that your current path is not leading to the result you want, and not being afraid to just switch and think hard about what would have the impact you want.
Yeah. Okay. Very cool. And what's in the future for you? Like, what's the plan now?
Well, I left Epoch AI a couple months ago. Since then, I've mostly been thinking independently about scaling laws and better ways to measure algorithmic progress, and about the alignment problem in general. So for the next few months, I will mostly be finishing these independent projects that I started, and seeing if I can set up a new research agenda based on this. And in the meantime, I'm also exploring other opportunities. So I'm very interested in the field of longevity and life extension. So I'm also talking to people in the field and trying to see if I can contribute to that in any way.
Yeah, very cool. In longevity, what do you feel like might be like the most plausible path that gets us there? Based on the current limited knowledge, just intuition.
Well, I think you have to think at different time frames, probably. If you are pretty old, then I think cryonics is the only solution, right?
Yeah.
It's a temporary one, and it might not even work. But in terms of things that actually have a decent chance of extending your life in the not very far future, I'm very excited about replacement of tissue, of whole organs, or even your whole body. It sounds very hard, and I was very skeptical about this a few months ago. But the more I learn about it, the more it feels like it's a smart strategy that can actually work, and it's actually quite simple.
Yeah. And what about like advanced bioengineering? Do you feel like that's just like decades away? Is that the main intuition behind that?
I don't think it's decades away necessarily, especially if advanced AI multiplies our research capabilities significantly.
Yeah.
I do think there are more known unknowns. The combination of therapies and interventions which will unlock negligible senescence or, well, immortality, or however you want to call it,
Mhm.
seems like it could be quite complex. Maybe at first it's only applicable to embryos until we figure out how to deliver it to the whole body of an adult human.
Yeah.
So it looks to me like we have to be pretty cautious. Society will also force us to be pretty cautious with this. So even if the fundamental science advances pretty quickly, I would expect at least a couple decades before we have the therapy or the solution.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And when did you first get into longevity? Like, what was the point you're like, okay, I need to take this a bit more seriously than I am?
Well, as a beneficiary of longevity, it was around 3 years ago when I signed up for cryonics with Tomorrow Bio. As an active participant, pretty recently. Basically, after I left Epoch and had some time to think what I wanted to do.
Okay, so coming to the heavy stuff, what drives you in life?
Well, one of the things that I really love is learning about everything. I'm very curious. I want to understand every aspect of the world we live in, the universe. So that's being able to do that and being able to uncover the secrets of reality is one of my main motivations. But unfortunately, the world we are in right now is pretty much in danger. And I'm talking about multiple levels. So each of us is individually going to die unless we change something. We have very limited resources. You know, we are much richer as a society and individually than 200 years ago. But there are still people who cannot afford to really explore and basically dedicate their whole energy to just surviving. So, and yeah, we don't know how to solve coordination among humans, political conflict, how to navigate technological transitions. So there are many problems in the world that we need to solve before being in a stable enough ground that I can dedicate my life to understanding the universe. So I'm basically trying to solve that. I started with AI, trying to figure out what the AI transition means for the world and for the economy. I'd like to think I made some contribution there. And well, now I'm thinking about longevity, but just because I have to prioritize and do one particular thing, right? I cannot do everything. But I would also like to help with economic and institutional development more broadly. I feel like it's so many of the world's resources and minds are stuck or cannot be productively put to use because of economic or institutional problems.
Yeah. Actually, I had a question. So how do you prioritize right now between AI safety and longevity?
Well, it's hard. I don't have a good answer. I started with AI because I felt like it was bigger stakes, right? If I die, well, at least society will continue. If AI destroys the engine of progress, then that's much worse. Nowadays I'm a bit more optimistic about AI, or at least I think very sudden, very catastrophic outcomes are less likely. So I feel like we have, or at least I have some opportunity to spend more time in other problems like longevity.
Okay, we're gonna let them pass. All right. We're coming back. Okay. Did you finish your answer, or did you want to say anything more?
No, I think that's pretty much it.
Okay, amazing. And do you have any thoughts on like the current, I guess, the talks that are going around AI and AI safety? For example, at one point you have like the Eliezer's new book, right? And on the other hand, you have like, I think the CEO of CEA saying like, oh, we should not be so doomy, etc., etc. What do you think about all of this? Like, where do you land right now?
Well, I personally am not as doomy as Eliezer.
Yeah.
That's not a no, not a difficult thing to achieve.
Yeah.
But I do think it's a problem we should take seriously, and I take it seriously myself. And I keep
Yeah.
thinking about the alignment problem and how to solve it, and whether we need to solve it in the original way that as was envisioned by Miri and
Yeah.
Eliezer. So yeah, I think it's good that people talk about it. I think it's good that these arguments are being written and being scrutinized and being discussed.
Amazing. I also had because you said, that you're a bit more optimistic now about AI. Why do you think that is? Like, what changed? What thing happened that you're like, you know what? Maybe it's gonna be fine.
Yeah, so most of it was just learning more about AI, both at the practical level of how it works today and how our models are trained and how they behave, and the theoretical understanding that we have of why they work. So on the one hand, studying current models tells us we still don't know how to align them, right? We don't know how to make them do what we want reliably and without making mistakes. They obey fairly strict laws about how much you can do with them with a given amount of compute, data, and with a particular algorithm. So, and so far, the best methods we have just leverage computation and data in a fairly generic way. It's not like we are crafting these delicate algorithms for intelligence that require extensive design on our part. It's most just, figure out how to make this self-organizing system optimize itself better. So what this tells me, coupled with the theory of universal artificial intelligence, like Solomon induction and IXC, the theory of free energy minimization for agents that is sort of coalescing right now, is that, maybe there is no such thing as the algorithm for superintelligence as something that you can type into a computer and it just works, right? It seems to me that the intelligence scales smoothly with respect to the computational resources that you have. And when I say intelligence, maybe I should say more power or even agency. So you can make your algorithms more efficient by doing clever tricks, but so far it looks like there's no way to just skip all of that, you need the compute, you need the data, and this is a very different picture from the original one, where it was like, we are going to design these systems, we're going to give them a goal, and they are going to start operating in the world, and then we won't be able to do anything else, right? So we have systems that evolve continuously as we give them more resources. We have a vast industrial supply chain on which they depend, and which so far cannot support amounts of processing power that are much higher than, collective human population, right? We have on the order of maybe tens of millions of chips that can be used for AI, and that's not enough to overcome or outgun all of humanity's collective intellect, even with the improvements in AI technology we're seeing so far.
Yeah.
So we would in order to have very catastrophic scenarios very soon, we would need some kind of jump or leap in capabilities.
Yeah.
That so far I haven't seen any evidence for so far.
Okay, to push back on that a little bit, right? Imagine like a few years ago, right, 2021, and imagine now, right? A different. I think you just used the word magic yourself, like a few minutes ago. So if we are just like one or two leaps away from like an even like crazier magic kind of intelligence, right? Do you not feel that might happen anyway? Because looking at just the past like 3 years, right?
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I think there will be significant progress. I don't know. It's hard to convey. I don't think I have very good arguments for why,
Yeah.
or very legible arguments for why I feel more optimistic now.
Yeah.
But in a sense, these systems, the systems that we have right now, they look like magic because nothing like that existed in the past, right? What they do is, if you look at it, pretty mundane. They
Yeah.
have lots of knowledge for sure,
Yeah,
and that's
yeah.
nothing that like we've seen before.
Yeah.
But in terms of their intelligence it kind of looks like normal human intelligence, of course, with a different skill profile.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is they don't behave like a super coherent being which perfectly calculates all possible outcomes and chooses the best.
But does it need to behave as a super coherent being for it to have like a lot of power and agency in the world either way?
To pose an existential risk and be able to outpower
Yeah.
humanity and gain control? Yes, I think so.
Okay.
Or it needs either this super coherent and super rational nature,
Yeah.
or it just needs much more resources than we have.
Is there any way for you to quantify? Like, what does that look like? Is that like, for example, before you couldn't, it was only a chatbot, and now you can connect your different tools. Like, you can give access to your email if you want, right?
Yeah.
So, in the next 1 or 2 years, what do you think it looks like when it has like met this threshold that you're talking about?
Yeah, so for example, if 10 or 15 years from now, we keep pouring trillions and trillions into an industrial capacity build out, we build robots and we actually get them to work, which seems likely, right, in 10 or 15 years. We build robots, we build millions or hundreds of millions of GPUs and chips and scatter them around the world. We build more energy infrastructure, and we start deploying AI systems around the economy in a way that essentially lets the industrial supply chain work without humans or with a very reduced number of humans. Then we would be at significant danger.
Okay, I agree with you, but the problem is, isn't that what they're saying? Like, if you're at that point, then you cannot go back.
Well, if the systems at that point are basically not aligned and they are human level or superhuman even if they are not like a super intelligence in the super coherent being way,
Yeah.
then yes, basically it's hard to go back, right? Or like maybe you can, but you are in a very risky situation. So sure, by that point, we will have to have figured out how to control them or how to align them,
Yeah.
or in some way how to make sure that they don't destroy us or take control.
Yeah.
But what it looks like to me is that we have probably at least around a decade left until we hit that point, because there are fundamental
Yeah.
constraints in how quickly you can build out the infrastructure.
Yeah.
We are learning more about how intelligence works, and we have better tools to understand these systems.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
And the nice thing is that this control problem also scales. And by that I mean that in order to get AI to be useful in creating a website or a product or doing tasks on my behalf nowadays,
Yeah.
I also need to solve this issue of how do I get you to do what I want you to do,
Yeah.
not what I say, or not what you think
Yeah.
would make me happiest, not what I actually want you to do, right?
Yeah.
So I think there's an incentive to solve this problem.
Yeah.
I think there's many people and many resources going into this now more than ever, probably,
Yeah.
even though it's still a pretty small fraction of the overall
Yeah.
resources going to AI.
Yeah.
So Well, yeah, I just said I'm more optimistic. I'm not saying this is like going to be fine and just
Yeah.
relax and chill.
Yeah. All right. All right. It sounds good. I guess if we can go into this one like for hours and hours.
Yeah.
So let's cut it here for now for AI safety, and we'll get back to it another day. Switching gears. What's your plan afterwards? I think you mentioned something about going to US or.
Yes, I am moving to the US probably next month.
Okay.
So I'll move to the Bay Area initially, at least, and there, well, I hope to be able to keep talking about AI with people in the field. Hopefully, develop and test my ideas against other people's feedback, and also, fortunately and amazingly, the Bay Area is where a bunch of AI stuff is happening and where a bunch of longevity stuff is happening. So I will continue exploring how I can contribute to
Yeah.
advancing the state of longevity.
That sounds amazing. Okay, so finally, what's a book that has been impactful in your life?
What, sorry?
A book that has been impactful in
book.
your life. And to be clear, last time I asked that question, someone said the Bible because, technically it has a lot of impact. So I would say that's like personally very positively impactful. Maybe it could be the Bible again. But what's that book for you?
Books that have been very impactful. Well, an obvious answer is Harry Potter and the Methods
Of
of
course.
Rationality.
Of course.
It really, I think it basically rewrote my personality and goal system and value
Yeah.
system.
Yeah.
Which is kind of crazy. And yeah, well, I think reading many textbooks has also been very formative for me. It's hard to point to a singular one, so probably information theory, coding and learning algorithms or something like that by Mackay.
Yeah.
Physical biology of the cell. I really like that one. It trains you to think of biological systems as just another physical system, which you
Very
can
cool.
apply your usual scientific toolkit to.
Yeah.
Systems medicine is another book like that.
Yeah.
Another textbook like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and then, well, I don't know. There are many books that have had some impact on a particular part of my
Yeah.
how I view the world.
Fair. The one thing you would recommend is the Methods of Rationality, definitely. Or is it also you feel like for a specific subgroup of people? Or?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
some people will, especially if you are like a student and maybe you're, I don't know, you've never read an actual intelligence character.
Yeah.
I think it's really good, and sometimes I reread some portion of it just to get motivation.
Amazing.
But some people will hate it. So
Yeah. That's with everything in life.
Yeah.
All right, amazing. Thank you so much, and I wish you the best of luck with the rest of the LBF, and the future moving to US.
Well, thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, have a good day.
You too.
All right, so how are you doing?
I'm doing all right.
Yeah. Okay, so for people who don't know you, could you give like a quick summary of what you're doing now?
Yeah. Well, should I introduce myself or like?